So, where was I? I was talking about how Laputa tries to depict very erotic things. For example, this is a scene where Pazu helps Shita, who falls from the sky. This one. Shita is wearing plain clothes, and when she floats in the air, she is weightless. But when Pazu catches her, she suddenly becomes heavy. In other words, she becomes substantial. At this point, her breasts look pretty flat. They are drawn very small. They almost look like a wrinkle of her clothes. Maybe it's a bust line, or maybe not. You might wonder, so is that Miyazaki's taste? But that's not it. Next picture. This is a scene where Shita sends Pazu home and is in despair afterwards. Then she recites a spell which she learned from her mom. Save me and revive the eternal light. As soon as she does that, the Levystone on her chest starts sparkling. Because the Levystone is on the center of her chest, that's where the light illuminates. Sure, but then he intentionally drew in the shadow, casting on the sides of her breasts to describe their volume. He did that intentionally because that's what he wanted to show. And he did it well. Because this is not a scene where eroticism comes in. We feel it's our fault for thinking something naughty from a scene like this. Miyazaki made us think like that intentionally. And so, this clever scene, that's why this scene also, oh wait. This scene, the light of Laputa returns to the stone. Now look at Shita's clothes. It's baggy, and that's intentional. When the stone sparkles, her clothes flap. Then if you look carefully, you can see her upper arms to shoulders, and she might be naked because you don't see her wearing underwear. You can't see it clearly, but you can catch glimpses of her body. But the audience understands that's because of the energy released from the stone. But if that's the truth, there's no need to dress her in such fluffy clothes with open sleeves that flap so easily. The only reason for doing this is to show her clothes flapping to the audience. But at the same time, he doesn't want them to think this is an erotic scene, although he wants them to get excited. That's why he chooses to make this type of erotic depiction in a suspenseful scene like this one. For example, the movie starts with a scene where an aircraft is flying. Then the Dola family attacks it. Shita notices they intruded into the aircraft and escapes out a window. But when she goes outside, a strong wind lifts up her skirt all the way up to her thighs. But this is also a serious scene where her life is at stake, so it doesn't seem like an erotic scene. Miyazaki always puts in scenes like this in his movies, a scene where a girl's skirt flips up to her thighs, but those scenes make us feel guilty for thinking, oh, I can almost see her underwear. But it's us who are perverted for having such shameful ideas. The guilt is the lust. I know one guy who does something similar, Steven Spielberg. When Spielberg made Jaws, he showed so many scenes where the shark bites off people's legs. He visualized those legs bleeding or missing to indicate that the shark attacked the victims. Then, in one middle scene in the movie, the main character, Chief Brody's youngest son, is playing at a beach, and the shark appears. Brody sees it and dashes to the beach. Then he finds his son on the sand unconscious. After that, a scene shows the son being dragged on the sand, but the camera doesn't show his legs. That's nasty. Instead, the screen shows the small son's face at first, and gradually, as the boy gets dragged, the belly button, the thighs, and finally, the unharmed legs. What it does is, it makes the audience anticipate and fear at the same time. They imagine, does the boy have his legs or no? Why is the boy unconscious? Why is Chief Brody's face all pale? Why are people surrounding the boy doing nothing but standing? When the child is being dragged, the audience is possessed by contradictory emotions of hoping that the legs are still there and slightly expecting the guilty pleasure of seeing the legs bitten off. Spielberg knew this guilt creates fear. When we see horror movies, what's best is to see something scary happen. We unconsciously hope to encounter fear. If nothing happens after scary events are indicated, we feel relieved, but we still unconsciously hope that the main characters in the movie have scary experiences. That's how our guilt creates a sense of fear. Similarly, Miyazaki sets up a premise by saying, these aren't erotic scenes. Then he takes advantage of our minds that still see eroticism from those scenes. That's how he creates erotic scenes. That's why, well, in a scene like this, for example, here or here, all of these erotic depictions are done in suspenseful scenes. And I mean, this, well, someone commented on the screen. Compared to this early stage of the movie where Pazu meets Shita, her breasts here have gotten unmistakably bigger. You see? They're bigger. Everything happens in 2 to 3 days, so it's not like, yeah, girls grow fast. Miyazaki just had to draw her like this because at this point, Shita has started taking advantage of her femininity. And it's not just about sex appeal.